That's Mr. Swaminathan. Let me just start off with the approval coming in for Pro Air. What does this mean for the company?
Tolan and Proventil. The market overall is about $1.1 billion, but because of recent COVID conditions, it's been growing 13%. In terms of the various brands that there are, ProAir, Ventolin, and Proventil, ProAir is the biggest, which has a volume of close to 47% of the market. Ventolin is next at 44%, and Proventil is 9%. So we have, in fact, a generic version of ProAir, albuterol sulfate there. And we think that it's a very important market for us. We have been waiting for this for quite some time. It's a product which has a very high level of complexity. And there's fair degree of stickiness associated with it because you don't expect too much of competition. And to the extent the price erosion associated with this could potentially be lower. Given the growing market and the large size of it, we would like to scale up. And obviously, this is going to be an important development in our evolution when it comes to the inhalation space.
Absolutely. And talking about the respiratory market as well, you actually have quite an attractive, complex pipeline at the moment. Is this going to be a key driver for the company going forward?
The inhalations portfolio, we've always held it out to be a very important portfolio for us. We have been working on at least about 12 to 15 products over the last several quarters. As you know, a huge chunk of our R&D spends is essentially for complex generics, which encompasses the inhalations portfolio, biosimilars, complex injectables, and the like. The drugs device combination in the inhalation space makes it particularly interesting and challenging, not to speak of the clinical trials associated with it, which make it daunting and expensive as well. And given the fact that there's actually one of those spaces in the generic program which is really growing, it's certainly very important to us.
Swaminathan, thanks so much for joining in and more importantly, patiently waiting by. Unlike Perrigo, both you as well as Cipla have developed this product in-house and are manufacturing the product in-house as well. Does this also mean that you will have an edge and will be able to get higher gross margins versus other players?
Well, I don't want to comment on that. For sure, it's a very profitable product also. And as given our own track record for market share, we would obviously try to maximize on that. The device itself, so we have imports associated with it. We're getting it from abroad, in the UK, Germany, and the like. The API is from other parts and so on. But despite all of that, given the price stickiness, we do expect the gross margins to be pretty good.
Give me a number, would you?
No, I don't want to actually go down that path.
Okay, fair point. With this approval coming in, I'm sure this is also acting as an endorsement of the kind of capabilities that you have built when it comes to respiratory R&D as well as manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely true. As I was just telling you a minute ago, we are working on several products in the inhalation space, at least 12 to 15 products. And we have lined up an impressive list of products, so to speak. ProAir is the first. By the end of this fiscal, we are looking at Fostair to be launched in the EU market. We also have a first to file in terms of Spiriva, which could be FY23, Dulera, which is about FY22. These are the known products to analysts in the market, but there are a host of others as well.
Hi, Ramesh. Nikunj also joining in.
Yeah,
Ramesh, there is a view in the market. That USFDA, not for Lupin, but for other pharma companies, is going to be much less stringent. That's the industry view. Would you like to endorse that?
I wouldn't like to comment on that. They are a regulator, a governing body. They are generally very dispassionate, very objective in their approach. So I don't really believe that they would be lax in anything for that matter. They would be even-handed, and they would obviously come down when there is actually a transgression of any kind, data integrity, and of course going down the path of a digital trail, being contemporary in your techniques. All these are very important to them. So I really don't think, I certainly wouldn't endorse the fact that they would be lax with anybody at all. I think they're a very objective governing body, and they would keep it that way. They're very stringent in the way they approach things.
If one has to understand the generic cycle, Ramesh, has the cycle not only bottomed out, has the pricing come back? Because they're two different things. One bottoming out and second uptick.
True. Yeah, insofar as the generics market in America in particular, it's actually been witnessing a degrowth of kinds. So what was potentially a $67 billion market about 3-4 years ago, it has actually come down by a good $10 billion. So that's come down to 57, 58 levels. What is also happening in that space is the fact that the competition is also, the companies which are at the top in terms of league tables have also come down a bit in terms of market share. What's also happening in this space is that the Indian companies have been ramping up. So Aurobindo has got a market share which is much higher than what it was, say, about 4 to 5 years ago. But that could be said of, in fact, a host of other companies from India. Equally, you have a lot of smaller players also vying for a lot of what would be termed as commodity generics. So that's the changing space in the US. But in a general sense, there is a lot of potential in other emerging markets also. So, so it is still a global market. And the good thing about any generic portfolio is that you can leverage across, in fact, various markets. And that's the success ingredient for success, secret sauce for success, really. So one should be doing that.
What with said that the recent approval for Lupin means that the US business is back on track and now अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं. Is the report on Lupin right, or they're being optimistic?
I would endorse that. The $155-58 million that we saw in Q1 was an aberration. And we are, if you look at, in fact, the whole of last year, we are bidding around $175 to $185 million. In Q4, it was $212 million. So I would think that in Q2, we would bounce back for sure from the 155 levels. We also had a stroke of bad luck with metformin and the like. That would also be back by the end of this quarter. And for sure, with products like albuterol lined up, we would be back into the levels that we always have seen over the last several quarters.
Sure. If COVID would have not happened, what would have happened to pharma industry? Because there is a view which is that COVID has been a tailwind. That's a positive view. The other view is that COVID actually has impacted top line. It's not a tailwind. It is actually a headwind.
COVID, of course, presented opportunities of different kinds. And we just spoke about albuterol itself. And that's, I just said that the market is expanding, growing at 13% for this product. But in a general sense, COVID has impacted the top line across markets. So if you look at, for example, India actually has shrunk in terms of growth. So there's virtually no growth in quarter one. Q2, July was just about okay. And August, we just about reached the same levels as potentially last year. And September onwards, we do expect things to pick up. That's so far as India is concerned. But if you look at, in fact, the prescriptions in America, both acute and chronic have come down in the last 3-4 months, so to speak. And markets like Philippines, Latin America, Mexico in particular, have been hugely impacted. The supply chain has been disrupted. So COVID has brought in opportunities, but at the same time, it has posed a lot of challenges to the supply chain and the like. There have been labor situations across factories which have been impacted. It's not as though we have been spared that. We have also been impacted. But having said that, we put the customer in the front and do what it takes to kind of maintain, our supply chain levels. But it's been a tough situation, so to speak. But what it actually has done is that the sales promotion expenses, travel, and all of that has certainly come down. So we are, of course, exploring newer ways of actually promoting our products with doctors, not merely in India, but also in other parts of the globe. Also come down on specialty in America and the like. So there have been, of course, and this is perhaps true with the other industries also, perhaps not merely pharma, but other industries also. So to the extent there have been pros and there have been cons associated with COVID.
Let's take a very quick break on that note. Mr. Swaminathan, great having you with us on the show and discussing some of these major factors as well with us in detail. Good chatting with you this morning.